Hello there, YouTube. Hello there, art students. Welcome back for part D on my Michelangelo series. This one, we're going to wrap things up with the Last Judgment. If you recall what we've said about Michelangelo so far, is he's the bee's knees. He's the greatest. He's the one. He's the artist of all artists. We've talked about his sculptural amazing prowess. And then we went in the last video, we talked about his the amazing ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I'll put the videos up there in the top corner so you can click on those if you haven't seen them. So today what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up with the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment is also part of the Sistine Chapel. So if you recall the last video, we talked about the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, the over 300 figures that are in there, the book of Genesis illustrated for the Pope's private chapel. In Michelangelo's timeline, he finishes the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel at age 35, 7, I can't remember. And he walks away from the Sistine Chapel. He leaves and goes on to do a lot of other stuff, other sculptures. He's very prodigious, has a, I guess for lack of a better word, an academy. I mean, he has helpers and staff. Michelangelo is a superstar. By the time that you figure in the Pietà, the Statue of David, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, and all the other work that he's done, Michelangelo is, renowned for his amazing artworks. And he is called back to the Sistine Chapel by a subsequent Pope. Again, Michelangelo does not consider himself a painter, even though in the Sistine Chapel he creates what is, one of the greatest paintings ever completed by a human being. He's called back to the Sistine Chapel, and this time to do the Last Judgment. Let's get into it. I'm going to try to go faster on this video. I'm going to finish this in one video, and here we go. So the Last Judgment is this. This is a picture of it. This is in the Sistine Chapel. This is in the front. So if you walk in, we've talked about the ceiling now, and so now we're talking about the wall in the front of the building. It is an immense fresco that depicts the second coming of Christ. He does it in 1536, and different accounts say that he spent anywhere from about 8 to up to 12 years painting this image. So we're talking about a decade for sure. It is again an immense undertaking, physically, mentally, strenuously, artistically, just an unbelievably huge work. And some artists will say that they can see a difference in the feel of the work, the way it looks. It's more mature, darker. I don't know. That's for the artsy fartsies to decide. It is a little richer and darker in tone. So if you remember, the Sistine Chapel has lots of oranges and greens and turquoise. It's a very bright kind of, I don't want to say optimistic, but it's a vibrant, bright painting. This one is a little more, not gloomy, but the palette is a richer, darker palette for sure. So let's take a look at this thing. This is the interior of the Sistine Chapel. So if you over here on the side, there's this level 1. There's like paintings, frescoes over there of drapery. Then you got level 2. This happens to be the side with the life of Moses on there. On the other side, that level is the life of Jesus. Then level 3 up there, you've got paintings going on. Michelangelo, so there was paintings already on this wall, and Michelangelo just completely replaced this wall, puts in a new wall, and a new fresco. We've already talked about the Sistine, the ceiling up here, and now we're doing the Last Judgment. So for scale, you can see here's some people down here on the stairs to the altar where the Pope would say Mass, and you get a sense of scale for how big this thing is. It's vast, it's immense, it's an undertaking. Any one of these works done by Michelangelo, anything that I've talked about today would be the crowning achievement of any art. If I did any one of those things, I would be like, yeah, I'm the man. But Michelangelo did all of them himself. It's unbelievable. It just really is. That's all I can say. So let's get right into it. This is the Sistine Chapel. This is the Last Judgment, and I included this painting because it shows the darkness of the painting before the Sistine Chapel was restored. So over time, this painting had been kind of covered with smut and tallow and waxy, smoky buildup. And other artists had come in and they had tried to seal it with varnishes and shellacs and covers, and other artists were employed to paint into this painting. So it was very sort of we'll just say damaged. It was not in its clean, pristine, bright, rich shape that it currently finds itself in. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to take you on a little tour, and I've given myself a process that I'm going to follow, and we're going to follow it. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go clockwise around this fresco and end up over here. So we'll start in the center, kind of in the lower part. We're going to go right on around and come on down here. So let's get right on into that, shall we? Boop. The first thing are these angels. The angels, this cluster right here that are blowing the horns to signal the last judgment, the second coming of Christ. And there are many references in this fresco to Dante's Inferno, and of course, biblical references. I may, if I get a little bit distracted, talk about some of the biblical business going on here. This isn't a biblical study. This is a painting study. So I'm going to try to talk about it just enough to where you kind of get it and then move on. So they are sounding the trumpets, announcing the coming of the Last Judgment. And you'll see they've got two books. There's this book over here that one dude is carrying, and this book over here that two dudes are carrying. Now, actually, these are not dudes, they're angels. So, dudes don't really apply there. So the little book over on that side, that's the book with the names of people who are going to the good place. The big book over there on the right side, that's the names of all the people that are going to the bad place. So the horns, when they are sounded, that summons the dead to be judged by God. So we're going to hop down. So now, So we're going to hop down over here now, boop, boop, to a spooky. I'm sorry, apologize. We're going to hop straight down, boop, boop, to right here. And that is now, and some people might disagree with this, but you hear different things. But that is purgatory. So purgatory is the place where people go who have died, who are not like good enough to go straight to heaven. They go to a place called purgatory, where they are sort of held in waiting for the last judgment. They're going to go to heaven, probably, but they are not allowed in because they haven't been admitted. They're not the top tier. They're like the second tier. So you can see down in there, there's like the fire. And again, these are references to Dante's Inferno. So you may have people, if I get an artsy fartsy, somebody watch this in the comments, they might say, no, this is not purgatory. Okay, it's debatable. So now we're going to scoot on right on around to the raising of the dead. So if you look, it's a little spooky. These are all the deceased, the bodies of the deceased that are, clambering out of the ground like a bunch of zombies. and rising to be judged. They are going to face Jesus. Now, without getting into too much theological discussion, which I could do, I'm not gonna. The deal is this: when you die, so there's some debate in the Christian circles. When you die, you go to heaven. You hope. And you can look in the Bible, and that Jesus turns to the thief, sits next to him on the cross, and says, "Tonight you will be with me in heaven." So that would mean that when you die, you go to heaven, but you wouldn't be in heaven in your physical form. You would be in a spiritual form. On the last judgment, you and your body, your material being, are going to be reunited, and then the kingdom of heaven, and etc. So these are the physical forms of people rising from the dead. Now there's some disagreement on the stuff that I just said. So this isn't a theology class. We're just talking about Michelangelo in his paintings. But again, a little spooky. I mean, you got these corpsey looking things grumming up out of the ground. Now, you will also notice that these figures are jacked. So, they got the guns going. That's a stylistic thing that Michelangelo does. He portrays all of his figures as very sort of big, muscular figures. Again, one of the things that is the reason for that, aside from just its stylistic, is these are Renaissance images, and Renaissance harkens back to Greece and Rome. And if you are familiar with seeing any of Greek and Roman statues and paintings, those figures are always very classically muscular. So that's the way Michelangelo does it as well. So yeah, a bunch of spooky zombies being summoned up. All right. So now we're going to continue going clockwise up. Boop. And there we go, loading. So these are figures that are being lifted up, pulled up into heaven for judgment. So, and daggone it, my little picture covers this up. I think I've got a better picture of this. These are figures that are being pulled up. Now you'll notice that like these figures right here, these are very dark. These like little pants that are covering up the bums and stuff of the figures. Those were added later. So all of these figures would have been nude. Well, most of these figures would have been nude, but they were covered up later. There was a bit of a controversy over Michelangelo's nude figures and were they appropriate for church. So later on, after his death, an artist came in here and put pants and little coverings on these figures. So they're being pulled up into heaven. So let's keep on going. Boop, boop, boop. So here's the whole side that we're looking at. Here's down there under that thing that keeps on popping up. Down there at the bottom, you can see those spooky zombies being pulled out of the grave. Then what we just looked at, which is the figures that are being lifted up towards heaven. Over here on the right, that's a better picture of that little part. And I thought it was cool to point out that in this figure there is an African figure, a dark-skinned figure. So shout out for old Michelangelo being inclusive back in the day. And they are being lifted up by a rosary, the beads of a rosary being pulled up. So that symbolically says that prayer is one of the things that's going to lift you up. So we're going to come on up here to this side. We're not going to get this stuff over here. I think we're just going to get this part on our next slide. So here we're going. We're going up. This lady over here, and I don't think I have a close-up view of that. Michelangelo is not known for his ability to necessarily paint ladies. Basically, he paints them as men. As with these big figures, but this figure over here that's kind of helping this person, she represents the church, and that the church can pull you up to heaven. Then over here, you've got various, these are good people who are being accepted. They are at the right hand of God. There's God right there, and these people are. These are your good folks, the folks that are being pulled up. And I'm going to continue. So I think I'm going to go up here to the next one. Boop. Up there. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I got this side, and I've got this other side too. So there's the up here in heaven. There's the cross, and again, this is in the crown of thorns. And these are all symbolic representations of how it is that you get to heaven by way of the cross and by way of Jesus's suffering. And then the next one that I'm going to show, this is the other side, and this is like the pillar where Jesus was scourged. So by Jesus's suffering, that's what brings you up into heaven. So here we are in the center of the painting, and I will try to not get distracted. At this time in science, the sun was recognized as the center of the solar system and not what had been previously believed as that everything revolved around Earth. So now you've got the Earth, the heliocentric model. So here in the center of this painting, we've got God as the sun, the literal sun, not the S-O-N, the S-U-N. And everything sort of orbits and revolves around God. And this is where it kind of starts getting, this story starts to take a turn for the worse. So sitting right next to God is Mary, his mother, his favorite human. And you can see that she is sort of turning. She's looking this way towards the good side. And she has her arms crossed. And that turning and that is symbolically saying that, I can't help you anymore. The time has come for the last judgment, and you are being judged. So in the Roman Catholic tradition, Mary is an intercessor for human beings. If you pray to Mary in the old church, Mary can put in a good word for you with Jesus. But at this point, she is sort of turning her back and saying, I wish I could help you, but it's too late. The time has come. So, and by the way, you'll notice that God, or Jesus, if you will, the Trinity, he is also a very muscular figure and also unbearded. So, and that's kind of rare. You don't see a picture of God without a beard very often in the Christian tradition. This is going to be a Greek-like god of the sun, Apollo. So even in this very, very devout and biblical reference, Michelangelo still incorporates this sort of humanistic idea of the classical Greeks and the Romans and the classical form. So now we're getting ready to go over here to the sad side. Sorry. Yeah, there's a nice close-up of Jesus there. And again, he's very stern. And I keep saying Jesus, God. He's very stern-faced. This is not the peaceful Beatitudes, blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor. That's not this one. This is the last judgment. This is a God raising his hand and casting sinners into eternal damnation. And that is a serious business. So here are the poor souls who are now being drugged and pushed and forced downward towards hell. And if you look at this one, I mean, that's the good stuff right there. That's the kind of image that when people see that the figure that is like realizing, I'm going to hell. That's the thing that makes a person fall down on their knees and start to pray right there. So these figures being drugged into hell, that's some scary business right there. Keep on. And this is like right over here let me show you where this is. So like right here is what we're looking at. This is Saint Bartholomew, and you can see he's got a knife in his hand. So when Saint Bartholomew was sainted, martyred, his skin was peeled off of him. He was flayed. That's how he was tortured. And if you look at the flayed skin of Saint Bartholomew that he is holding, that is said to be that Michelangelo, who is right here, that's his face. So that's the face of the artist, Michelangelo, as the flayed skin of Saint Bartholomew. Again, you're talking about some spooky business. This is there's some dark things happening in this Last Judgment, where these people are being, you know, cast into eternal suffering. We're getting down here to the very bottom right corner now. And this one shows, this is like where it's getting serious. You've got demons pulling on these souls, yanking them off this boat, the boat of Chiron, the ferryman who takes you across the river Styx. And again, those are also Greek references. So there's Greek mythology that's sort of incorporated into this. If you, I almost got distracted. I'm not going to do it. There lots of bits of Greek mythology and Greek belief, ancient Greek and Roman belief. A lot of that stuff sort of got kind of assembled into the Christian tradition, and on purpose. So Michelangelo, again, and we said on one of our last videos that he was very, very devout, a devout believer in Christianity, so much so that he actually carved horns on Moses's head, because that's what the Bible said, even though it was a mistranslation. So Michelangelo was very devout and a believer, but he also, he was familiar with lots of other theological works, like the Inferno, like Greek and Roman philosophies and stuff. But here are all these figures being dragged, pulled bodily out of this boat by these horned demon figures, pulling them down. And my picture here is getting covered up a tad, but you can see over here, I think I have a picture on the next one. This is the sort of that, burning, ashy city of fire that these figures are being pulled into. Oh, spooky. Come on there. Is that it? Is that my last one? Oh, I'm doing so good. It's said that when the Pope first saw this, when this was unveiled, when Michelangelo finally announced that it was finished, and the Pope saw this for the first time, that the Pope fell down on his knees at that moment and started to pray for his soul. It is a big, powerful image that places a clear choice in front of the viewer. You can go to the good place, or you can go to the bad place. And Michelangelo spells it out in a way that is undeniable, that is spooky. So yeah, the Last Judgment. Michelangelo goes on. So at this point, he's I think he's 50, maybe almost close to 60 when he finishes the Last Judgment. He's now finished in the Sistine Chapel. He gave 4 years to the ceiling and another 8 to 10 on the Last Judgment. He spends 12 years of his life in this one room, working in a medium that he doesn't particularly want to work in. So now he's got the remainder of his life, which is significant. He goes on to live another 30 years after completing the Last Judgment. And in that time, he produces many amazing sculptures. And we talked about a few of the later pietas that he does, but he continues to work. He does a scaled down version of the tomb for Pope Julius, and yeah, he goes on to cement his reputation as one of the greatest artists ever. No, not one of the greatest artists ever, the greatest artist ever. Just an amazing body of work, just an amazing legacy, just an amazing feat of human endurance and human ability and skill and talent and yeah, Michelangelo. I would invite you to, spend a little time on the YouTubes, looking up. There's so much stuff that you can find about Michelangelo and the Renaissance and other Renaissance artists and the Ninja Turtles, and there's just so much stuff out there for you to find with the sum total of all human knowledge at your fingertips. Don't let this be the one and only time that you look into this stuff. There's all sorts of cool business out there for you. But okay, I think I stayed pretty good this time. Didn't get distracted. So yeah, hopefully I'm under 20 minutes here. I don't know. All right. Have a good day.